See, as we suggested the last time we had a podcast, we said we'll do this monthly, where we have the opportunity to share with you activities, what we've been up to over the past 30 days or so. And we would take questions, comments, suggestions from everybody who's listening.
ABC Time, a monthly live interactive broadcast with Alexander B. Cummings. Join KMTV this Friday at 11:30 a.m. for ABC Time. Get your questions ready.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm Alexander Cummings, political leader of the Alternative National Congress, with our third podcast. As you all know, we have scheduled a podcast the last Friday of every month. And today is, of course, the last Friday of November. And so it's great to be with you. Today is a holiday here in Liberia. It's President Tubman's birthday, November 29th. It's also the sort of traditional customary opening of the beaches where many Liberians, young and old, go to the beaches to celebrate the day. I just want to caution all of you who are in the festive mood on the beach having a good time to be careful. Don't drink and drive. If you can't swim, don't try to get in the water to show off to your friends. Just have a safe, enjoyable, and relaxing day today. I also want to let everyone know that this will be an abbreviated podcast. We'll not go to 4 hours. We'll go till about 12:10, 12:15. I have to head to the airport, have a plane to catch, so we'll abbreviate the podcast today. But let me start with a few topics. And then, as always, Mariah would take your questions and we'll respond as appropriate. The first topic I want to talk about is the economic challenges facing our country and our people. As you know, many civil servants have not been paid for several months now. It varies by agency, by ministry, but it is clearly an unacceptable situation where people come to work every day, put in an 8, 10, 12-hour day with no compensation. It's just completely unacceptable, and the government needs to find a way to pay the civil servants. This is money that is owed them. This is money that they've earned. This is money they deserve. And there's no excuse for people going months and months without being paid. Of course, this is a symptom of a very dire economic situation in the country. There's lack of confidence in the economic management of our country, lack of confidence in government, revenue generation is declining. Clearly, there are allegations of corruption, misuse of public funds, all very unacceptable situations. And again, the lack of payment of people's salary is the ultimate manifestation of the challenges faced by our people. You know, what can we do about this? Let me first of all say there are no easy answers. There is not one simple solution. The issues are deep, they're challenging, and it will require actions on multiple fronts to resurrect and fix the economy. In no particular order, you have to start by restoring confidence in the management of the country, in the management of the economy. It goes to the behaviors of our leaders. We gotta stop the stealing, stop the corruption. We have to make sure we got qualified people running, not just the economic team, if you will, but in all facets of our government. We have to focus on revenue generation. We have to redeploy the limited resources we have into economically productive areas and sectors. So the point is there are multiple things we need to do to restore confidence, to begin to generate revenue, so we can begin to pay people on a consistent and on a regular basis. The idea of printing money to meet your payroll, if you think about it, actually makes no sense. If it was that easy, every country would be printing money to solve the economic challenges. I would then get a 3D printer and start printing money to pay my bills and that kind of stuff. It doesn't make sense. There's so many examples. Zimbabwe is the one that comes to mind, and I'm sure you've heard about the idea of printing money. So today the country is in collapse, is in free fall. That is too easy, that is too simple. And allowing the government to print money when they cannot account for the $25 million United States dollars that was supposed to be used for mop-up, when they cannot fully account for the $16 billion that was earlier printed, why should we have confidence that printing additional funds will be properly accounted for and will be used for the purposes for which they claim they need to use it for? So that is not a solution. That actually makes no sense, and that's a rabbit hole. I think if we do that, it's more difficult, it's more complex, multiple things we have to do, sacrifices have to be made, discipline, the impunity with which people are stealing and stuff. We just got to stop if we want to resurrect our economy. To that end, in our own small way, we have tried to help. You may have heard of the economic summit that the Cummings Africa Foundation sponsored. We brought together entrepreneurs from across the country. We had applications from almost 300 small businesses. We were only able to accommodate a little over 100, and so we had a long waiting list. But the feedback has been resoundingly positive. We offered master classes to provide skills to entrepreneurs. We offer workshops where they could participate as well. We had panel discussions where successful Liberian business people and entrepreneurs came and shared their experiences. So very productive, great feedback. We also had what we call the pitch competition, which for those of you who are familiar, similar to Shark Tank, where 5 businesses, there were again applications for 35, I think 40 businesses who applied to participate. We whittled it down and the top 5 came and presented. And 2 won. The first prize was for $10,000 United States dollars. And the second prize was for $5,000 United States dollars. The first prize went to a co-op in Nimba that is doing wonderful work in the agricultural sector. They're employing people, helping to create jobs. And the second one went to a young woman who has a natural hair care business, and she won the second prize. So very successful, good outcomes. And the plan is to take the learnings from this session and to figure out how we can do this, on an annual basis. And so we're looking at that now. We're taking the learnings so we can improve it and get it better. But again, one small way to tangibly try to assist where we can. I keep reminding people we are not the government. We don't have the resources the government has, but in our own small way, we want to try to help economically because that's the biggest challenge facing our country. Our government takes no responsibility for where we find ourselves. They blame everybody. In corporate America and in most organizations, you kind of allow this kind of rule of thumb. You allow the first 90 days to blame your predecessors, to blame everybody else. After 90 days, the problem is yours. The organization is yours. The NGO is yours. The country is yours. You now own it. You now have responsibility to fix the problems you inherited and not to create new ones. And let me say this though. Despite the challenges we're going through, I remain optimistic about our country. I know it's tough. I know it's difficult. I know people are challenged. But I also know we are resilient people. We are smart people. We are tenacious. We've been through worse challenges. And we'll see this through. There's light at the other end of the tunnel. And Liberia will rise again. We'll have a country that will be agro-based. We'll base our economy on the agricultural sector. We will leverage technology to help transform our business, our country. We will focus on the private sector. The private sector needs to be the primary driver of growth, the primary driver of job creation, and not the government. The government should enable that. And I'm sure that will happen eventually, where we will focus on the private sector and we ensure that Liberians drive the growth in the private sector disproportionately, unapologetically. As I mentioned, we'll focus on agriculture, we'll focus on revenue generation, we'll make choices and prioritize so that again we can transform our country. We will live by the mantra that you cannot keep doing the same things and expect different results. And we'll do many things differently to drive growth of our country and of the country's economy. Let me lastly talk about the CPP and where we are. As you all know, I remain committed, the ANC remains committed to the collaborating political parties. We've had teams, 5 from each of the 4 parties, working on finalizing the framework for the CPP. Great progress has been made. It is not completed yet, but again, we are committed to making sure we can work together. As I always say, not just to win elections as a group, but to govern. We want to govern inclusively with as many people in the tent as possible. Before I open it up for question now, I just want to ask us for a few seconds of silence in honor of Councillor Charles Walker Bromskin, who, as you know, passed away. A great son of Liberia, an excellent lawyer, the founder of the Liberty Party, a great stalwart of our country. We mourn his passing, and we extend our deepest and sincerest sympathy to his family, to the people of Grand Bassel, to the Liberty Party, and indeed to all citizens of Liberia on the passing of, again, this great son of our country. So let me just pause for a few seconds in honor of Councillor Charles Walker Bromskin. Okay, with that, let's take a few questions if there are any, or comments or suggestions. So Mariah, do we have any questions? And again, let me remind everybody listening that this will be an abbreviated podcast. As I mentioned, it's both a holiday year, but also I have to leave for the airport for a very quick trip. All right.
Okay. So we just have some comments, but no question for you yet. So if there's something else you want to talk about.
Well, then let me talk about the December 30th program, quote unquote, Save the State protest. You know, the ANC has made its position clear. First of all, we respect the rights of individual Liberians and collectively to protest and to vent their frustrations with the government. That is enshrined in our Constitution, and we're very supportive of that right. As you know, we were engaged in, participated in the June 7th protest, where we collectively made a series of demands to the government, none of which, I have to mention by the way, were followed through, were delivered upon. And of course, that is generating increased frustration we know with the Liberian people. And as therefore prompted this reaction to sort of the step down campaign, if you will. And our position is that labeling a protest as a step down, we are very, very uncomfortable with. Protesting for economic hardships, for lesser demands, etc., is direction we think people should go if that's their desire to do so. But again, the idea of labeling, step down, etc., is something we don't support. So for some people, they don't get the nuance, and it's confused for them, but it's very clear. And I think if you read the statement we put out, you will see the clarity with which we're sticking at that position. Again, while we're waiting for questions, and I know it's relatively early in Liberia, given a holiday, people probably hung out last night and slept in, so we don't have perhaps as many people on the podcast. And it's, of course, very early morning in the US, about the same time in Europe, and so on and so forth. Let me talk in a little bit more detail about the economic opportunities I see in Liberia. So the first thing we'll need to do, I think, to change the dynamic is, again, to what I call focus on revenue generation. Look at all the areas where there are leakages, where revenues is being siphoned, is being stolen, all the corruption, where when the government is procuring furniture or automobiles or airline tickets, where people are padding the cost so that they can steal the difference between the actual cost and what is projected up position at the cost. All of those sort of leakages we need to get at. All the rampant stealing of stuff, we gotta plug the holes, if you will, stop the stealing so we can redeploy those dollars. We gotta make sure we focus on all the revenue sources, customs, duty, tariffs. Again, the idea of you keep increasing, over time you will actually generate less revenue. By reviewing those, by decreasing where it makes sense, you open up the flow of goods and services, prices go down, people can afford to buy more, and in that sense you generate more revenue. Looking at our natural resources, are we getting full value? Are we monitoring? Are we auditing the concessionaires to make sure we're getting full value from the resources we need? So these are some areas we need to look at on the revenue generation side. Then again, we gotta find the money dictated ways to pay people. Because when you pay people on a regular basis, they spend that money and it creates a virtuous cycle in terms of growth in the economy. They spend, they buy, people import more. Unfortunately, we're not producing a lot domestically, and that's something we need to change. But again, those are all things that need to happen. I keep mentioning focusing on agriculture, focusing on farmers, making sure we're providing the financing, making sure that they're ready markets for the goods and services is another area we need to focus on. So these are just some examples of the areas we need to focus on. As I mentioned earlier, no silver bullets, no simple solutions, but we can do these things, we can follow through on these things, get out all of the waste in government, no unnecessary spending, no unnecessary travel, no traveling on private jets, no 30, 40, 50, 60 people delegations. Again, all of those things. There's a saying, I like that the oceans is made up of many drops. And so a drop here, a drop there, pretty soon you got a river, and pretty soon you got an ocean. And these things create a multiplying effect in terms of sources of revenue redeployed in the right way to drive economic growth in our country.
Okay, so we have a few questions now. Jack Gone wants to know what is your view on why no real world investment in Liberia since the ascendancy of George Weah, credible issues of failed state of the economy, and why?
So the reason why people are not investing, legitimate businesses are not coming to Liberia, is the lack of confidence in the leadership of the economy, in the leadership of the country. Let me tell you what I mean. If you are running your household and you are making, let's keep it simple, $100 a month. And that is, not enough to meet all your needs and services. And you want somebody to come either give you a grant to supplement your income, or you want them to come help you start a business so you can increase your income, your revenue. The first thing the person will ask is, so tell me how you're spending your $100. The one you're making now, your own money, how are you spending that money? And if you cannot explain how you're spending your own $100, that person will not come and give you a loan to start your business or to give you a grant to supplement your income. You gotta say, look, that $100, I use $10 for rent, I use $50 for food, I use another $30 for tuition for my children, and so on and so forth. And by the time I get to the middle of the month, that money finished. But this is how I use the $100 responsibly. Then the person said, okay, fine, I understand. Let me give you another $20 to help you finish your expenses perhaps. And then together, I'll make you a loan, or we'll invest together to start your business, because I know now you're responsible. I know you're using the little money you have, you're using it wisely. In the case of our country, our government cannot explain how they're using their resources, the resources of the country. Again, they can't explain this $25 million markup, the $16 billion. They blame everybody else. They blame the opposition. They blame, etc., etc. So until and remember now, people who want to come and invest, generally speaking, this is their hard-earned money. They don't have to bring it to Liberia. They can take it to our neighboring countries and other parts of the world. So if we wanted to bring them the money here, we gotta show we're responsibly using our money, that there's responsible governance, that if for some reason they run into dispute with Liberia, so again in my example, if they say, okay, I know how you spend your money, we'll go into business, and somehow down the road, you form disagreement, they want to know that there's a court system, that the rule of law applies, the judicial system, that when they go to the court will judge fairly. They don't want a judicial system where, because I know somebody in government, or the president can call the chief justice or someone and say, oh, you just changed that thing, I don't judge it fairly. People will not bring their money when those kind of things happening. So that's as simply as I can put it. This government has not demonstrated that they're responsible custodians of the resources of Liberian people, and therefore it will be difficult to attract foreign investors. The NGOs, the governments that have provided money here, you saw earlier in the year, the statement they put up about the money being misused by the government. So these are things that, this is not something the opposition is making up. This is not something we're doing. These are just the facts. This is just reality. Nobody wants to see Liberia not be successful. Nobody. All the allegations that are made against the opposition actually makes no sense. As I said, you get cut slack for the first 90 days, you can blame everything everybody else. After that, the responsibility is yours. And until the government shows good custodian leadership of the country, of the economy, it'll be very difficult to attract legitimate business into Liberia.
Fred Kamal wants to know, what do you recommend about the December 30th protest?
So again, we've made a statement very clear that Liberians have the right to protest what they consider injustices, whether economic and otherwise. What we have said again is that the idea of labeling a protest step down, etc., that descriptor, if you will, we are not supportive of. But people's right to protest, absolutely. Nobody in the ANC, including myself, would stand against people's right to protest for legitimate grievances they may have with the government.
So pretty much, Fred wants to know, do you support the government to be shut down since everything is deteriorating? What do you recommend?
I don't know what Fred means by supporting the government to shut down. We need the government to work effectively and efficiently. We want the government to pay people. We want the government to stop wasting money. We want the government to provide the services that is supposed to the Liberian people. This is what we are requiring. This is what we're demanding, that the government do what is right, what is constitutional, what the oath of office requires them to do. That's what we demand that the government does.
McDonough Yonko wants to know, will you run for the seat of the Senate for the Liberian people to see how you will perform?
I've answered that question many occasions. Let me first of all start by saying the legislature. There's a reason why the legislature is the first branch of government, because they are meant to provide check and balance to the other branches, and particularly to the executive branch. And so it's an important institution. The Senate is, of course, a very important institution. And the reason why I've said that I'm not interested in running for the Senate, although again it's a very important institution, I've said for two reasons. One is, I believe if I entered the Senate, by the way, I would win if I ran. But if I did that, anything I propose, anything I wanted to change, will be fought vehemently by the government. It's no secret that the leadership of the Senate and of the House supports everything the government wants. No check and balance exists today, unfortunately. And so I believe it will be actually a waste of time to do that, because I will be fought every step of the way. And by the way, President Weah was a senator, and I would ask the caller to share with the Liberian people what he demonstrated, what bills did he propose, did he co-author, what outcome was produced as a result of his presence in that august, very august body. But from my perspective, again, I will be challenged, and I don't know how effective I will be. And the second reason why I've decided not to run for the Senate is because and let me speak for myself, when I join that body, I will follow the rules, the laws, the code of conduct, etc., etc. And by doing that, it would limit my ability to generate revenue, to support the political activities, to support myself, my family, etc., etc. And so, if I cannot be effective, right, on the one hand, and then I'm constrained, because I don't want to be in the Senate and then not focusing on the work of the people of Maryland, and doing all kinds of things, all kinds of deals, taking bribe loans. That's not who I am. That's not what it's supposed to be. And again, for these reasons, I've decided not to run for the Senate. But we will be supporting, as you know, in 2020, through the CPP, we'll be supporting, candidates for the legislature, for the Senate.
Okay. Vonnie Allen wants to know, will you be in Philadelphia on December 7th?
Yes, I will be in Philadelphia on December 7th.
Okay.
And let me explain, because people don't know
Right.
what's happening. I've been invited by the Medina Association of the Philadelphia, or what do you call it? I think the DMV area. I may have that wrong, but that whole Philadelphia area. I've been invited by some ANC partisans to go to Philadelphia as well. And the reason why I can be there is, earlier in the week, next week, I have to be in the U.S. for a board meeting. And since I was going to be there for a board meeting anyway, it was easy to make the trip to Philadelphia. And I'll be back immediately after I leave Philadelphia. I'll be back in Liberia for the rest of the season.
Okay. I think that's about it. For
Okay. So look,
questions
it
from
looks
now.
like it's
I have one.
okay. Let's have the next one, and then maybe we'll.
Amar Keita wants to know, given the economic realities under President Weah, do you think CDC-led government has the ability to reverse this economic downturn?
The answer is I don't know. To be honest, I hope so. I mean, as a patriotic Liberian, I would want them to reverse that situation because too many people, too many Liberians are struggling, are suffering. And the honest answer to your question, Sam, I don't know. I don't believe they can, given their performance so far. But I would say I hope they can, because by doing that, it will alleviate the challenges being faced by all Liberians. But their history in almost 2 years of leading the country does not give me confidence that they can. But let's hope so. Let's pray so. That something will happen that will enable them to turn around the economic challenges faced by our country, by our people.
Jack wants to know, what does it take to hit the glass ceiling in corporate America? We know it comes with a lot of challenges. A summary will help us.
Look, again, as with everything, there's no simple solution. There's no one thing you do to be successful in corporate America or in any organization, any successful organization. But let me give you a few things in terms of how, when I give people advice. The first thing I always say to people is start by doing something, doing a job, taking a role, something you enjoy doing, something you like, something you're good at. Because if you have a profession that you enjoy, that you're good at, you have a job in corporate America, wherever that you're good at, the odds that you do it well is very high. It will not feel like work because you will enjoy what you're doing. And that's the first piece of advice I typically give to people. Second thing I say to people is, work hard. There's a saying that the harder you work, the luckier you get. Work ethic, working hard is critical to your success in any organization, certainly true in corporate America. Delivering results consistently. So you can be very busy, you can have a lot of activity, but outputs, outcomes, results is key measure in corporate America. And there's no, I did this yesterday, is what you did for me lately, what you did for me today. So that constant focus on results, on outcomes, is important to be successful in corporate America. And then focusing on the job you have today. So sometimes people spend a lot of time talking and dreaming and looking ahead without delivering on the job today, without looking at what you're doing today. Because when you're so focused on the next 2, 3, 4 jobs, sometimes you miss immediate opportunities that are right in front of you, or you miss obstacles, you trip yourself because you're not focused on today's results. And so that maniacal focus on what you do today is helpful in corporate America. Look, there's a bit of luck in life. I call it blessings. But you have to recognize when the blessings come your way, when the luck comes your way, and you got to be prepared to take advantage of it. You got to be prepared to make the sacrifices, all right? And so in my case, I think I did all of those things I mentioned, but made sacrifices. We moved extensively, taking the family here and there, as I mentioned, working long hours, focusing on outcomes, on results, developing people and teams, right? You gotta know yourself. You gotta know what you're good at and what you're not good at. And so you get with people, or you hire people if you can, or you get people that complement the things that you're not good at, so that the things you're good at together, you can get outcomes, you can get the results you want. But developing teams, developing people, being secure with yourself, being around people who are smarter than you, hiring people who are smarter than you in certain areas. Because in the end, when you become a leader, people remember you for the good things you do or for the bad things you do. They don't remember all the people that help you get there. You gotta identify those people, reward them, recognize them, because they will make you look good. So being comfortable with yourself. Don't think you know it all, because nobody does, right? So you get people who are smart in areas you're not. You work together, you work as a team. You deliver results consistently, you will rise up in any organization, and you will rise up in corporate America.
Okay, we have another question from Eliza Lynn Johnson. She wants to know what are your plans for 2020 senatorial elections?
So I've answered the question. If the two was listening about my personal plans, meaning I don't have any personal plans, but the party together with the CPP will slate candidates for 2020, and that's part of the framework that's being negotiated with other three political parties. But we will have candidates in every county. The CPP will in the 2020 senatorial elections.
Chandra Peters wants to know, says, I have a question from Cummings. The ANC doesn't support the step-down demonstration, but are they using any legal means in getting Josh Weir out of power, like impeachment process?
Well, the impeachment process is one that has to generate through the legislative branch. And if the legislature makes a case for impeachment, we'll have to see it. We'll have to make sure there's a basis for that. You know, I don't like to deal in too many hypotheticals, right? It is clear the government is not performing. It is clear the president is not performing. There are allegations of mismanagement, of corruption, of stealing, to use a most simple blunt terms. These are all allegations, etc. So if the Senate can make the case, if there's proof for that, we will be supportive of that. But again, I don't like to throw statements around loosely. I don't like to be superficial about things. I like to react to facts and to reality, etc., etc. But let's just to be clear, this government is not performing. There's no secret about that. And the legislature, it is their right to take actions to force the government to perform. And if that's one of the areas they want to pursue, we'll look at the facts, the reality, and if the basis is there, we'll be supportive of it.
Jasmine Amir Cooper wants to know, what do you think about our deplorable healthcare system?
Yeah, I mean, look, unfortunately, healthcare, educational system, infrastructure, we got many challenges. And the healthcare system is just one of the many areas we gotta fix. But let me say this though, with all of the challenges in all the different sectors, we will have to make choices and prioritize even within the sectors. And the area to focus on in the healthcare sector to have the most immediate impact is primary healthcare. So in no particular order, these are the illnesses that kills most Liberians. Diabetes, diarrhea, typhoid, malaria, childbirth, hypertension. These 6 areas are the ones that afflict and kill most Liberians. And most of those areas can be addressed by primary health care. Lots of clinics around the country, medical supplies and medication, trained nurses, trained midwives. If we focus on those things, we'll address the illnesses, those 6 illnesses I mentioned that impacts most Liberians. Of course, Liberians die from cancer and liver and heart attack, and that's all heart-wrenching. And we need to fix those things as well. But given limited resources, given the need to make choices and prioritize, we gotta start initially by focusing on primary health care, because if you look at the facts, if you look at the data, that is what kills most Liberians. And if you can address those in an aggressive way, you start to impact the quality of life of most Liberians. The other areas, water and sanitation, right? It sounds simple, but without clean, potable drinking water, that's where you get typhoid, that's where you get diarrhea, you get all these diseases if you don't get to the source. And again, running water, clean running water would be a big part of how you begin to address these illnesses.
Andrew Bowman wants to know, will you agree to go as VP to any of the other candidates?
Again, we answered this question in the last podcast. We answered this question on 50-50 early in the week, I think it was on Tuesday. And the answer is simple. You don't go into a tournament. The guys here heard me say this last week, they were all laughing. You don't go into a tournament to come in as runner-up. You know, the county meet is coming up, you know, kickball, football. I'm sure the teams are beginning to practice for the county meet. Nobody's practicing now saying we want to come in runner-up or want to come in third place. Everybody goes into the tournament, wants to win the tournament, right? You know, if I don't know if the callers in Liberia or the United States, you know, basketball, football is happening now. American football in the U.S. All the teams, you know, the football teams want to win the Super Bowl. That's what they're in there for. They're not in there just to get to the final and lose. Nobody wants to pick too early. So that's the answer to my question. We're in there. We want to win the tournament, and then we'll deal with the outcome if it doesn't happen.
Okay.
We'll take one or two more questions, as I mentioned. We gotta have an abbreviated session today.
Yeah, that comes to know how do you plan on protecting the laws? I think he meant the rule of law.
Yeah, the first thing you do is, as you know, if I'm blessed and you know get to serve our country, our people, it starts by following the example, right? You as in any organization, you as a leader, you gotta set the example for the organization, for the country, or whatever, and that's the first place to start. Then you will qualify people in the judiciary, in the Ministry of Justice, etc., to administer, you know, the laws. There gotta be consequences for people who do not follow the rule of law, who break the law. You know, I also pick on diaspora Liberians because many of them follow the rule of law in the US, the UK, Australia, wherever they live. And many of them, of course not all, come to Liberia, get to RIA, Robertson National Airport, and they kind of forget all the rules. So we will enforce the rules, the laws, no matter who you are, and we will set the example, and we'll get the right people to administer and interpret the laws of the country. So let's take the last question.
I think we have two other questions about the protest. Do you still think it's unconstitutional? What does your party think of the gross violation of the very constitution by the president? Another comment still about, do you support the December 30th protest? If not, what do you have to say about the protester supporters? So I think just
So I mean, look, I think
conclusion about
again, not to be redundant, we've made a point.
Right.
You know, because the government is violating the Constitution doesn't mean we should. That's not how you make change. You know, you don't follow the bad habits of other people. You build on the good things people do and you discard the bad things people do. But again, you know, I made a point, Mariah, that and the ANC statement I think was very clear, you know, unambiguous. Liberians have the right to protest per the constitutional right. We don't support the idea of it's quote unquote a step down, if you will.
Okay.
So let me conclude again by you know saying the following. One is by wishing all Liberians a good holiday today, good talk on birthday. As I mentioned in my opening statement, be safe, be responsible, but have fun today with your families. Let me also again commensurate with the Bromskin family, the people of Grand Bassa, people of Liberty Party, and indeed all Liberians on the loss of a great son of our country, Consular Charles Walker Bromskin. And then finally, let me say to all Liberians that don't give up on our country, don't give up on us. We deserve a better Liberia, and we can have a better Liberia. My favorite saying, you all know, is we got to do many things differently if we want a different Liberia. You can't keep doing the same thing and have different results. We got to be prepared to do things right to work hard, to be disciplined, to tackle the challenges on multiple fronts. For those of you who are looking for a simple answer, silver bullet, I can say to you for free, that's not how change occurs. Whether in your personal life, in your organization, in government, you're gonna do multiple things consistently, resiliently, over time, and then you will see change. But let's continue to believe in ourselves, in our country, and last but not least, to the government, pay the people for Christmas, pay the civil servants, find the resources, find the money. They owe it, they deserved it. We're demanding that you pay Liberians what they're owed. So thank you all very much. God bless you and God bless Liberia. Good afternoon. I'm Alexander Cummings, the political leader of the ANC. As we suggested the last time we had a podcast, we said we'll do this monthly, where we have the opportunity to share with you activities, what we've been up to over the past 30 days or so. And we would take questions, comments, suggestions from